and let you know that that I'm glad that you're here and that we're going to talk about menopause and weight loss tonight. So I'm pretty excited about it. I hope that you find this presentation helpful. I know I'm recording it as well, so the recording is going to go out after this because I had quite a few people who aren't going to make it live. That's fine. But I just want to address that we're going to be talking to you if you're struggling with weight loss right now, if you seem to be gaining weight, or you even just want to maintain where you are as you get older. This is going to be important for you. So just so you know who I am Debbie Harbeck. I'm a life coach. I am specializing in working with women who are in midlife and who are going through menopause, somewhere in the menopause transition. That's perimenopause, menopause, even postmenopause. So I've been working as a coach for about 5 years now. And before that, I was a personal trainer. I was doing some nutrition coaching. I was teaching yoga, which I still do. And way before that, I was an engineer in the aerospace industry, so helicopters and airplanes. So I've come a long way to get here where I am right now. And I'm happy to be here for sure. I just think this is a very rewarding place to be. So I'm aiming for this presentation to be somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes. So it shouldn't take all evening. And if you have any questions at the end, I can answer them. So tonight I'm talking about weight loss. I don't love the term. I know we don't maybe love talking about that nowadays. It can seem a little bit taboo, but it is the common language, and that's what I'm going to use as this common language. And I'm not suggesting that anybody has to lose weight or that you need to lose weight, but and I'm not even saying that weight itself is really that important, but I do know that weight loss brings up a lot of contradictory feelings. And I know through clients that I've worked with, they hesitate to bring weight loss up at all. So I'm bringing it up here because I think it's important that we talk about, because it is on our minds. So weight, of course, can come on for various reasons, right? Especially in midlife, I'll say. It can be stress, which I'm going to talk a lot about tonight. It can be thyroid. So hypothyroid can bring on some weight. So it's really important to get your thyroid checked at this point of your life. Bloating and digestive issues can increase your weight, and medications, lots of medications can bring on weight loss. So these are things you should be aware of. Tonight, though, I want to explain how your body is working right now. So assuming your thyroid is okay, when it comes to gaining and losing weight, I just want you to be able to make some decisions on how you're going to do this from now on, because it is a little bit different now that you're in midlife. What I'm not going to do tonight is talk about body image. And that's a huge and important topic. I think body image is really important, so important that it needs its own forum. But I will say that if you can approach weight loss from a place of accepting your body, from a place of loving your body, if that's possible for you, then you're much more likely to make healthier choices and be able to lose the weight. So just putting it out there. But with that said, I'm going to move on and say this is the things we're going to cover tonight. So I'm going to talk about the role of your hormones in this time of your life. So how are they impacting weight loss and weight gain? And I'm going to bring up a few of the common myths about weight loss and gaining weight at this time of life that are out there. So I want to address those. And then I'm going to show you and talk to you about strategies that I use and that I've used with my clients successfully and that I've learned about that do work. So I want you to leave here tonight with an understanding and maybe some compassion. I really hope that you have some compassion for yourself right now, for what's happening to your body right now. And I also want you to be able to take away a handful of strategies that actually work and that you can start practicing maybe just after this webinar. You can start using them right away to help you lose some weight if that's what you're looking for. So I hope that sounds good. So we're going to get right into it with the very first myth that exists out there. Weight gain is inevitable in menopause. So it's not. Weight gain is not inevitable in menopause or perimenopause for that matter. but weight does tend to increase somehow. As for many women at this time of life, weight does tend to go up, but it also tends to go up as we age beyond this point. So it's really interesting. So to understand why this can happen, we need to understand our hormones. We need to know what's going on. So I'm going to give you, in a nutshell, what is happening with your hormones, because I could make a whole presentation just on that. But in terms of weight, so we're just talking about weight. So as we go through perimenopause and into menopause, our female hormones, so as you see estrogen and progesterone there, they experience a significant drop. And this is in the years leading up to menopause and just beyond menopause. And it could be up to 10 years so that you're in perimenopause where these hormones are in decline. So you need to be aware of that, because at that point, right now, as you can see in this picture, they're kind of a cushion between you and stress. They provide this kind of buffer. But what happens is when they start to decline, that buffer diminishes, and then you are much more affected by stress, and you start experiencing things like sleep disturbances and higher anxiety and maybe some brain fog as well. So these things can start happening because that cushion gets thinner and thinner. And then weight gain can also happen when stress becomes an issue. And this is even when you haven't changed anything in your life, because cortisol, the stress hormone, is higher when it does get higher, when we diminish the female hormones, then we can have more food cravings, more sweet cravings, especially our cells tend to become more insulin resistant. So this is a time where we really have to be careful of what's causing our insulin to go up. And as a result, we tend to store more energy as fat around our bellies. So that does change our body shape, but it also tends to have us putting on some weight as well. So when we look at weight over time, it just seems to significantly increase in the decades following this time of our life. So even if not just this time, but over time, it just seems that weight does tend to go up until we're about 80 or so. So we need to be aware of stress in our bodies, because this is a big driver of that. And we need to make changes to help minimize the stress. So I've talked about the word stress. We hear it all the time, and it might conjure up certain things in your head, but I really want to tell you what I am talking about here. So I'm talking about the mental and emotional weight that you're carrying around, because chances are, if you've got a lot of things that you're carrying in your brain, in your mind, in your emotions, then physical weight will generally follow that. So that is something to be aware of. Your body is a reflection of what's going on in your mind. So we need to understand that, I think. And then it's, for the first strategy that I do want to talk about, is about stress and noticing your daily stresses. So when I talk about stress, I do not just mean the big deadline at work, or the big things you're going through, like divorce, or maybe a death in the family, anything like that. Yes, for sure, those are stressful events. But what I'm talking about are the constant daily stresses in our lives. So things like rushing around everywhere, not eating as healthy as we could, that puts stress on our bodies, sitting for hours at a time, that does it, sleep that we're not getting, and you may be in that position right now, the schedule that you have crammed with things, the house that's a mess, which is really common, the kids that aren't behaving like they should, or aren't checking in with us like we want them to if they're adults, and maybe the partner who doesn't seem to do enough, and the bills. But it's also the positive stuff, even the planning of vacations and events and things. They're positive stresses, but they're stresses nonetheless. So the thing is, all this stress kind of just feels normal, kind of just feels like we're doing life. This is the way it goes right now, right? But it's not normal. And I just want to tell you that, because this time in our lives, this time in history, is unprecedented. Never before in history have we had so much responsibility, especially as women. And that's compounded by the fact that we tend to live further away from people who would support us, from family and friends. And with technology, we're also constantly connected. We're constantly on. We're never just ourselves. So a lot of us don't know how to stop. And this is a really big issue. But out of self-compassion, I think we need to learn to find the off button, or at least slow down and recharge. So my first strategy is to ask yourself these three questions. So what am I doing that right now that can be done by somebody else? Can I share the load, basically? Two, what doesn't need to be done as often or at all? There's things you could just take off your list, things you're doing that you might not even know you're doing and it's taking up space. And how can you better plan what's left over? Things you absolutely need to do, how can you plan them better so that they're not as stressful and not as packed? So just a quick story. I have a client, and this just happened really recently. She had a really messy office, really messy bedroom, and they were stressing her out. She didn't realize how much she was carrying this in, but every time she walked into those rooms, she felt bad. And when you come home, you want to feel good. You want to feel like it's a place where you can feel good, but she didn't. So reluctantly, she asked her mom for help. Now, her mom had offered to help her before. Her mom's older, she's in her 70s, but she's in good shape, and she didn't want to burden her, but she finally relented and said, okay, come and clean my house. And it was the best thing ever. She felt so good. Her mom helped her with the things that her mom could help with. And then there were other things like her clothing, going through her clothing, her jewelry, paperwork, things that she needed to do personally. So then those were things that we planned out and that she bit by bit got through. And now she's like, she can't believe how much less stress she has when she comes home. She can exhale. So we don't realize that we're carrying this with us all the time, but we are, and it's adding to our stress, and it might be adding to our weight as well. So that's the first thing. Next thing is the second myth that I hear is hormone changes make it impossible to lose weight. So the first one was about gaining weight. This is about now we can't lose weight. So we want to focus on, we want to realize what we have to focus on when we want to release weight from our bodies. What is it we need to focus on? And how your mind can affect your body. This is a really big one. So weight loss is not impossible, but the way to lose weight has definitely changed. And we need to understand that. Food and exercise, yes, absolutely, they're still important, but they're not number one on the list. Stress is number one. Stress is number one. It's not like I wish I could lower my stress. It's like I need to start there. So that's a really big shift. And that includes getting a good night's sleep because that does add to our stress. So here we go with this one. So the first thing is what you focus on grows. So I heard this from Robin Sharma, but I've heard it from so many different teachers in so many different ways, like where energy goes where, oh, now I can't think of it, of course. Now I can't think of it, but what you focus on grows. That's what it is. So basically, I don't know if you know Robin Sharma. He wrote the Monk Who Sold His Ferrari and the 5 a.m. Club. So that's the most recent one that I've read from him. But he's saying is here that if we focus on weight, we will grow our weight. Even if we're thinking of weight loss, we're focused on a number, we're focused on a scale, we're focused on the weight. But if we focus on health, or well-being or strength or calm or joy or nutritious food or moving more, those are positive things. If we focus on those, they can grow. So the idea is that if we want weight loss, our minds shouldn't be focused on weight, but rather the things we want to grow in our lives, the things we want to get better. So when I talk to clients about this, often they're afraid that if they take their eyes off of the weight, if they stop focusing, then it will get out of control. But that isn't what happens, I promise. And we have to realize that in the past, if you've done weight loss before and you're here today, it's because it's not working. So looking at your weight is not the best way to do it. And we have so much, so much wrapped up in that number. So that's what I'm saying. For the second strategy is to go beyond the scale. So this has freed myself. I rarely step on a scale unless I'm at the doctor's office. And a lot of my clients, they have just stopped using scale because it has such a hold on them. So it may seem radical to some of us to do that, but it's amazing how much lighter you'll feel when the weight isn't one of the top stressors in your life, because we're holding on to this, and it's very stressful to always be worried about our weight. We don't realize it until we stop looking at the scale. So for most of us, it's lingering in the background, and we've lived with this all our lives. So I know to shift it, it does take some time, it does take some effort, but it's as simple as removing that scale. And to remember that your weight does not mean anything other than the force of gravity on your body, which is different on the top of a mountain than it is on the moon, than it is right here. So it's just a number. And weight says nothing of your strength. It says nothing about your capabilities, your worth as a person, your effectiveness as a mother or a friend or an employee. It doesn't tell you anything about you. So, and yet we give it so much power. So we need to take that power back and let go of that for a little while, at least until we can see it in a neutral way. So I have to tell you about another client of mine that I've been working with. I've been working with her since January. A month ago, she confessed to me that she was very tempted to step on the scale. So she stopped using the scale, but she was tempted. It's normal. It's there, right? And but right before she did, she just thought about how she was feeling. And she was feeling happy. She was taking care of herself. She felt great in her body. She had more energy. Her clothes were fitting better. So all these great things were happening. But in this moment, she kind of wanted that validation of the number on the scale. And maybe you would recognize this behavior. So, but she didn't step on the scale and she just allowed her own knowing to be enough. And I think that has to be enough. We have to learn how to do that. And then we're not a slave to the scale. And it is very much a freedom thing. So the third myth that we come across is that metabolism can slow down completely in menopause, which again is not true. It does not slow down completely. And it can slow down with age. So that's something we're going to look at. And we want to keep the metabolism burning. And there are ways to do that. We can keep it going. So what is metabolism? I think we have to understand what that even is, because I think we think of it as how fast or slow we burn calories. But what it is it's in each of your cells. And when you basically burning fat or food in your body, it creates energy in the units of calories, and that's your metabolism. It's just that burning of the fat or the food in your cells. So I see metabolism as your body's furnace. It burns fuel to give you energy. That is what it does. And it's true that as we age, our metabolism does tend to decrease. But it's not just because we're getting older that it goes down. It's our habits. And so the first one is that as we age, we do tend to move a lot less. So we're building less muscle. And muscle that is where calories get burned. That is where food gets burned. That's where fuel gets burned. So not to mention that in perimenopause and menopause, we do naturally lose a lot of our muscle mass in that time. It actually declines quite drastically. So we have to be really aware of that if we build muscle, we can increase our metabolism. We also tend to indulge in more comfort foods and more alcohol. So I don't know if you listen to my podcast, but I did an episode a few months ago about alcohol, and women between 40 and 65 are the fastest growing group of drinkers out there. So we have to realize that this is not a good fuel. This is not what we want to be burning. And the other thing is we tend not to sleep as well, and to have a good metabolism, sleep and rest are really key. So our metabolism does not slow down completely, but there's a tendency for it to slow down, and we need to be aware of it so we can change our habits. So the other thing is you choose the fuel you burn. You need to choose the best fuel, choose the things that burn clean. And that's what we're going to look at. So your furnace, you want to feed it the best. And what is that? So fuel, as I mentioned, it includes foods that we eat and drinks that we consume. These are things that we will burn. What helps our metabolism most in midlife is increasing the protein just a little and taking in more fiber. So those are key food things that we can do for our metabolism and for our weight. The reason why is that protein, as I mentioned, your muscles, they help burn they help burn calories. That's where they're burned. So if we can build muscle through eating more protein, that's a great way to do it. And fiber, why that's so good, it just keeps things moving through your gut. It gets the waste out. We want to get the waste out. And it just keeps your machine clean. So the cleaner you are, the less, weight is possibly going to be an issue. And this is also not the time to cut carbs. So if carbs are an issue for you, and you're thinking of carbs as something you want to cut out completely, I'd say that keto and very low carb diets may not be the best thing for you, because yes, you might lose some weight, but that weight might be more in the form of muscle than fat. So we need to be careful of that. We need carbohydrates to burn. That is the fuel. That is the best fuel. That is the fuel our body wants to burn. So we need to eat carbs, but high quality carbs. There's a lot of good ones out there, fruits and vegetables and beans and, all kinds of unprocessed carbs that we can eat are the best. And of course, then there's sleep and rest. We got to introduce those. We've got to have times where our mind can stop and we can help regenerate and just replace those broken down cells, so we can have new cells that can come in with their own, metabolism as well. So it's so important to do all these things. And finally, movement. So movement will increase your muscle mass if you do it in certain ways. If you do some resistance work by working against gravity, that's really good. Doing some jumping exercises can also increase that muscle mass. But I will address cardio here too, because I think we think weight loss and cardio, they go together. And I think at one time maybe they did more than they do now. Not that cardio is bad. I think we need cardio, but you are getting cardio when you do resistance training. Your heart is beating faster. You're getting some calorie burning for sure as you're doing that. So that's partly what I want to say. But the other part is that if you go all out with your cardio and you're moving too much or just doing too much, it can be a stressor on your body. So it's not about pushing at this stage of the game. We don't want to add more stress. We want to decrease the stress. So there's a balance of exercise that we need to have. So it's something to think about as you move forward, that the way you thought of exercise and food might not be the same anymore. And that is why we come to this myth. So eating less and exercising more is the key to managing weight. And I will say that was probably a successful strategy when you were younger. Most likely it was one of the more successful strategies. Now, of course, that was back when stress didn't affect you as much and sleep was actually easy. Remember those days when sleep was easy? But now eating too little and exercising too much or in the wrong way will actually increase your physiological stress. So we have to be mindful of that. And we need to rejig our thinking and think differently about food and exercise and how we do manage weight, because it isn't the same as it used to be. So a good mindset shift would be move to be strong, not skinny, eat to be energized, not thin. So thinking of moving and eating separate from weight loss is important. And before, yes, we might have moved to be skinny, but now we need to move to be strong. Remember metabolism we just talked about? That's part of this. And maybe we used to eat to be thin, but now we need to eat for other reasons, like being energized and feeling good. And it's so important. We have to make that mindset shift about these things that we do. Changing our mindset, though, is like building muscle. It takes time. It takes a lot of reps to see the results. It doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen with practice. So it's important to practice thinking differently. And a mindset shift, so changing your mindset, I call it also managing your mind. It takes awareness. It takes intention. So for example, we don't often eat with awareness. We don't often eat with intention. We tend to eat because of how we're feeling. Maybe we're upset or angry, or maybe we're really happy. Whatever can trigger you to eat. or maybe we eat because it's 6 p.m., or maybe we eat because everyone else is eating. We have so many reasons we eat that don't involve hunger, actually, that actually involve our mind or not listening to our mind. So logically, you should know you should eat when you're hungry, of course you should. And you should also know what healthy foods are as compared to unhealthy foods. But the problem we have isn't knowledge. We know the things to do, we know what to do. It's putting that knowledge in practice. And that's what awareness is, putting knowledge into practice. And that's the real work here. So when I work with my clients, this is the most challenging part. It takes time to become aware, though, of our behaviors, the way we're wired, and then to change them. But this is also the most interesting part. It's probably one of the biggest reasons I became a coach, because it is the most interesting part to help people go through change. And this is really a place where you can grow the most, and you become the investigator of you. You get to learn so much more about yourself when you go through this process of managing your mind. And you learn to have some compassion for yourself, for the behaviors that you used to have, for the actions you've taken. You learn to see yourself in a different light. And I think that's such an important piece of this. So we have to, in order to have some awareness around this, we have to catch ourselves in the act of doing the things we didn't want to do. Maybe we're sitting on the sofa eating a bag of chips. We didn't want to do that, but here we are. Or maybe we're sleeping in instead of getting up to go for a walk. So what we need to do is get curious, without blaming ourselves, without being harsh on ourselves, but to get curious as if we're watching somebody else, somebody that we love and care about. And we do it out of love, and we want to talk to ourselves in a kind way, especially when we screw up. And believe me, you will screw up. You will screw up. We all screw up. So it's just learning how to have some compassion with you. When you're managing your mind, it takes time. And there are so many tools you can use to do this. So I love this because you can journal. Some people love to write stuff down. You can do affirmations, speak it out loud, or use an app for affirmations. It's really great. I have a Think Up app, which works really well. You can make a vision board, something visual. That's so good. I love doing that as well. If you're very artsy crafty, that's really good. And there's so many things you can do. Just put into practice something that you enjoy, and there's a way of helping you through this. So just find, though, one tool. Don't go and try everything at the same time. Find one tool and use it to help start managing your mind as soon as you get off of this webinar, if you can. That would be the best. And then the fifth and last myth that we come across is that changing our body is harder the older you get. And yes, it's different, but it doesn't mean it's harder. It is different. We have to think of it differently. And we need to make a commitment to ourselves, which maybe we haven't really done before. So this is all about prioritizing you. And this is what I want to talk about here. So let's just get into that. I love this quote by Stephen Covey. If you know 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's been out there for many years, but he says it's not about prioritizing what's on your schedule. It's about scheduling your priorities. So what are your priorities, and scheduling those? So to make yourself a priority, you actually have to put yourself in your calendar. You have to honor, not just put yourself in the calendar, you actually have to do those things and carry those things out and not see them as, oh, that's just mine. I can move that. So we have to do it as if we're the most important person in our lives, which really should be. It should be us. So if you're not in your schedule, you'll never do the things that are important to you, because life is just so busy and action packed, and there's so many things going on. So we need to put all the important stuff in there, even though it seems small, no matter how small it seems, in fact. So I want, if you're going to prioritize yourself, the 2 things you need to do are to think ahead, so know what you want to get done and when you want to do it, and then schedule all the things. I mean, all of the things. When I'm talking about, like, if you're going to schedule a workout, don't just schedule the workout, but know what you're going to be doing in that workout. How long is that workout going to take you? And just what time, what day. If you just say I'm going to work out 3 times a week, that's not good enough. So we have to get very granular, very specific. And like, this is what gets the most comments probably when I start working with my clients, is that it seems silly to them that, why are we going in such detail? I could do this myself, but it seems simple. I know it does, but it is so important, and we don't do it. But when we can do this, and it becomes a little bit easier for us, it's so powerful. So your success can totally skyrocket just off of this particular strategy, by being very granular about things you put in your calendar and prioritizing yourself. And I think that prioritizing ourselves is the first and most important piece of self-care. And weight loss is just about being really great at self-care. I think if you're really great at taking care of yourself, the weight will take care of itself. Weight, I believe, is just a byproduct of how we live. So we need, if we can live better, if we can take better care of ourselves, the weight will take care of itself as well. And you totally deserve it. We all do. So it's believing that. So here I'm just summarizing. These are the 5 strategies that I suggest for weight loss. Again, I could go in many different directions tonight with what I'm talking about, but I'm really trying to streamline this for weight loss at this time of life where hormones are changing. So we need to, first of all, and you could do these in any order, but I just put them in the order I presented them. Just take one strategy. So either notice and release daily stresses. So that's where you go through those 3 questions that I mentioned, to find out what things you can take off of your schedule and give to somebody else or get rid of. You can go beyond the scale, so getting rid of the scale altogether, if possible. There's strengthening your metabolism through how you move, through how you eat, through how you sleep. So picking one of those areas, movement, eating, sleeping, to help strengthen your metabolism. Manage your mind. So learn how to manage your mind by finding a practice that you can get things out, that you can see what's the way you're thinking, so that then you can change the way you're thinking to a more supportive way of thinking for yourself. And then finally, prioritizing you. So putting yourself in your calendar, the commitments you're making to yourself on a very granular, specific level, and knowing exactly what time, what days, how long it's going to eat, how long each thing is going to take, is really going to go a long way to you being able to carry out the things it's going to take for weight loss. And in fact, everything I'm mentioning here that has to do with weight loss, it helps with pretty much most symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. So if you can reduce your weight, chances are you're reducing inflammation. Chances are you're just going to feel a lot better on all areas of the symptom spectrum. So we'll have less brain fog, we'll have less anxiety, we'll feel perhaps our urinary issues can be resolved if we're stronger, especially in the pelvic floor area. These are all things we can start doing. We'll have less joint pain if we start moving a little bit more and taking care of ourselves that way, and eating foods that actually promote and decrease our inflammation. So many things, everything's linked together. So if you're going to work on weight loss, you're actually going to affect so many things, which is what I love. And then I just want to sort of bring this to a little bit of a close, but just to talk about some of the women that I've been able to work with in the last few years. So I have helped some of my clients with weight loss, some to a huge extent, some less, but the other changes they've made are amazing. So some are it's just being able to sleep through the night. They're thrilled about that. Some of them have been able to run their first 5K or their first marathon. Some of them have moved through divorce and kept their integrity intact, which is amazing. Some of them have started businesses, or they've stayed in a job and they've been able to double their income. Incredible. Some have healed relationships with their children and other loved ones. So many things, everything is linked together. So I have clients come to me, a lot of the times they come to me for weight loss. It's something I do help with, but everything is connected. So even though weight loss is the thing, it's actually a byproduct of something else in life. So that's where life coaching comes in, because it isn't such a simple topic. So I love to help my clients. These are just some of the things that they've said and that I've had the privilege to help them with. So I just love to help you as well, if I can, to move beyond this whole weight loss and get into the life that you really, really want to be living. And so that's why I invite you to work with me to get together through a simple call. I will put the link to the call, which I always do in my emails, but the Calendly link to my calendar. You can book a half-hour call. It's always free to talk to me. So I would invite you to do that. And 2025 is coming up. And why not start making this the year that you're going to help yourself and get the support you need? A lot of times we go through this without support. I hired my first coach, what year was it? 2011. I had a coach for 18 months who helped me at the time leave a job that I wanted to leave and start a business that I'm doing now. And I thank God that I had her, and she really helped me with my mindset and getting over leaving a full-time job to start a business. It was a big leap, but I'm glad I did it. So getting support is crucial, especially when maybe the people around us aren't the most supportive, and just to have somebody impartial who can work with you, and somebody knowledgeable. So, and that's who I hope I could be for you. So just ending there, if you do have any questions, you can put them in the chat. And, but it's been a pleasure to be here tonight, to be able to share this with you. And I hope that you got something valuable out of this, and perhaps we can chat, or perhaps you can book a call and we can talk further, or just send me any questions that you do have after this presentation. And if you are listening through the recording, then please reach out to me, ask me questions. I am here. I also have great resources, including my podcast, which maybe you've listened to. And there's, I think I'm up to 71 episodes of the podcast. So there's lots of different topics in there right now, and that could be tremendously helpful for you as well. So thank you so much for being here, and I wish you a good night.